everyone, it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, it is so nice to meet you. Today's video, we are talking about some books because we love to read in this household. If you guys don't know, I love to read. As of right now, I have read 170 books in 2022. So I thought I would pull together, these are not just books I've read this year, this is just like over time, books that I feel like really changed the game reading wise for me, ones that just made me really excited about reading books. They have gotten me out of slumps. They're ones that I have just kind of flown through because they were so good or so life-changing, and they're not ones that I felt like, I don't know, I felt like they were all so good. There comes a time, especially when you read as many books as I do, or even just like 100 books a year, there comes a time where not every book is just like sparking your interest because you've been through so many, and especially when you've read such good books, I feel like it is important to read books that make you excited about reading again. So if you are someone who has not read books for a while and you're looking for books to kind of get you into the mindset of reading, that just make you excited about it, or if you have just been reading books that are not exactly your cup of tea, they're not your greatest book of all time, and you're kind of just needing something to get you excited again, this is a list of books that have made me excited about reading. So I thought I would share with you guys, and this is in no particular order. These are all books that I've read. Some I read a long time ago, some I've read in the last year, some I read a couple of years ago. So it really just, there's no rhyme or reason for this list. So we're gonna start with the book on top, but before we get started, I would love it if you guys would subscribe to my channel down below, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first book on this list is actually not in the stack of books, and the reason why I'm starting with it is because I don't have a physical copy of it, and I know I'll forget if I don't tell you first. So the first book is called What Happened to the Bennetts by Lisa Scottoline, and I actually read this one not too long ago. I think in September. I think I read it in September. I had September and October have been very, not October, it's still October. September as a whole has just been was an incredibly slow month book-wise for me, and so I felt like I had a hard time getting into books, any book that I read, and I felt like it was taking me forever to read anything, even if it was a really good book. So this one, whenever I started reading it, was immediately intrigued. We have this family, they're the Bennetts, and the beginning of the book is just like, it catches you so immediately. There is no like taking your time to get into it. It's just full speed ahead. You have the Bennetts, they're on their way home from a sporting event for the daughter in the family, and this car is tailgating them, just riding their tail so hard, and they're like, this is annoying, and the whole family's like, Dad, speed up, these people are, you know, right on our tails. So he decides, instead of speeding up, he's gonna pull over on the side of the road, let the people pass him, and then they can carry on their merry way, and he can go the speed that he wants to go. And so he does that, and then suddenly the car gets in front of him, tries to carjack them essentially, slams on brakes. This happens all within like the first chapter, so I'm not giving anything away. But then a tragedy happens in their family, and they have to go into witness protection, and it's really so good. It's split into two parts. It's the tragedy and then their family transitioning to witness protection, and then the second half is the dad deciding he doesn't want to be in witness protection and he wants to make sure that he can live a normal life again someday, so he decides to take things into his own hands because he does not feel like the FBI is doing a good enough job. So I thought it was incredibly intriguing. First half of the book literally was so quick moving that the second half wasn't as quick moving in my opinion because it was more action packed than the first half, but I still thought they were both absolutely, like both parts were so good. It was such a fast-paced book, and that's kind of why it made me really excited about it. And I think it was the last book that I read in September that made me excited to move into October books. So now the stack. The first book, I have talked about this book so many times. I read this book for the first time when I was 16 years old, the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. My birthday's in August, so that's why I was 16. But this was a reading book that we had, like this was a school assignment, but it is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini, and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, but this book gets me every time. I loved it the first time I read it at 16. It was the only book I've ever been assigned to read by school that has captivated me in the way that this one has. This is the only one that I will willingly read again. I've already read it a second time, and I plan on reading it another time as well. I really want to annotate this copy. This is a brand new copy that I bought not too long ago because I wanted to have it on my shelf, and seriously, it's just so good. It's historical fiction, which is not something that I ever thought that I would be into, so if you're not into historical fiction, don't let that like genre stray lead you astray because this book is so good. I know I've just talked about how good it is without actually telling you what it's about. It's about, let's see, it's set place during the first reign of the Taliban in Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure it starts in the 50s. Yeah, I think it takes place in the 50s, and Afghanistan is the beginning, and then it works its way through this one woman's life. But we have these two women who are essentially married to the same man because they do that in Afghanistan apparently, and they're married to the same man, but one of them can give him a child and the other cannot. And so it is a really big conflict between the two, but it ends up becoming a great story about the first wife is more like a mother figure to the younger wife because she is so much younger, and they both have lost a lot. They both have just experienced a lot of great heartbreak in their lives, and they find a way to overcome that. The end of the book is incredibly heartbreaking. It's so sad, but it's more bittersweet than anything because there's also part of the ending that makes you really happy for the main characters. Overall, it's really sad, but it's so beautiful. It's so captivating. I can fly through this book. Honestly, my heart. It has my heart. So now we move on to the next one. I'm pretty sure I haven't actually read any of the physical copies of these books except for the last two because I read them all on my Kindle. But the next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And I know lots of people love this book. I hate hardbacks, but I haven't read this in hardback. I read this on my Kindle, and I just own the hardback of this copy. But I have the whole series. There is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Well, let me see what the next one's called. Good Girl, Bad Blood, and As Good as Dead. It's a trilogy. The first one I think is the best one, but let me read the description really quickly. Pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend Sal Singh, who then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pippa sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. She can't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. She knew Sal when she was a child, and he was always so kind to her. How could he possibly have been a killer? Now a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project, at first just to cast doubt on the original investigation. But soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent, and the line between past and present begins to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. So I thought this was so good. This is a YA thriller, so if you're new to thriller, I feel like this is a great place to start, especially if you don't like super gory thriller. This is a really good place to read, but I feel like this book, it's very fast moving. It's very fast moving, and I don't know, I just think it's so good. Let me see. There's right under 400 pages, but I feel like it perfectly captivates thriller, but YA, and also, I just said it's a YA thriller, so obviously, but I feel like it perfectly captivates the concept of thriller while also being innocent enough in a YA book, a young adult, but also it's a great introduction to thriller novels if you've never read any, but you would like to start somewhere. You can work your way up to the more gory ones if you want, but this, I don't know, I just feel like it's a really great one to read. Like I said, it's fast moving, and because it's a series, it kind of gets you excited to keep reading. So it's not like you're just reading one and being done with it. So there's that. Next. Holy cow. So far, they've been thrillers and historical fiction. But this one, Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This one is literally so good. I read this one faster than I think I've ever read any book ever. Literally so good, and I wish I could experience reading this book again for the first time. So first, there is a woman, she goes missing, and then 2 weeks later, a woman and her daughter go missing, and her husband is stuck trying to figure out where these people went. So I'm gonna just read the description real quick. Shelby Tebow is the first to go missing when Meredith Dickey and her daughter, 6-year-old daughter Delilah, vanished just blocks away from where Shelby was last seen, striking fear into their once peaceful community. After an elusive search that yields more questions than answers, the case eventually goes cold. Now 11 years later, Delilah shockingly returns. Everyone wants to know what happened to her, but no one is prepared for what they'll find, and some people will stop at nothing to keep the truth buried. Literally, I wish I could read this book again for the first time so that I could experience the plot twists again, because it's that good. If you like if this sounds good to you, please read it, because honestly, it is so good. Literally one of the best books I've ever read. Favorite thriller of all time. Honestly, so flipping good. Cannot say enough good things about it. The next one I feel like might be a little bit of a cliche, but it's Verity by Colleen Hoover. I feel like everyone has read this book. I read this a long time ago. I feel like I started reading Colleen Hoover when some of the books were free on Kindle Unlimited. I think they still are, but it was really when I first got into my Kindle. And so this book, I have heard people who don't even like other Colleen Hoover books say that this is her best yet. This is her best book, and I think it is literally so so good. There is a massive plot twist at the end of the book, but like it is so fast moving. So we have Lowen, who is a struggling writer, and she is brought on to ghostwrite the author Verity's newest book because Verity has been in an accident. So Lowen is going through Verity's office and finds a manuscript that she finds intriguing, so she reads it. And it is a wild ride. Literally, it is so wild. Oh my gosh. It's the wildest ride, okay? It says page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. She decides to keep it hidden from Verity's husband, knowing its contents can devastate the already grieving father. And then she begins to have feelings for Jeremy, who is the father, and wow, seriously, it's the fastest moving book. People have told me even when they take forever to read a single book, that one is one that they read very quickly because they just have to know what's going on. It does not feel like you're taking, honestly, it doesn't feel like you're taking any time at all to read it because you just fly through it. I've got 2 more cutie little books. The next one is more of a summary book, and this one I actually have read this physical copy of because I have tabs in it. But it is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This one is so good. I just thought it was like one of the best books. It is her debut novel as well, and she's coming out with a new book in the spring or like early summer of next year, so I'm very excited about that. But first of all, can we just talk about, it has the perfect floppiness. It's not too floppy. It's perfectly floppy. It feels perfectly heavy enough. It doesn't feel too lightweight. I don't know. There's just something about the physical book that is perfect. But we have this boy and girl. They grow up going to the same lake every summer and they fall in love. Of course they do. 6 summers to fall in love, 1 moment to fall apart, a weekend to get it right. So they are friends to lovers to strangers to lovers, if that makes sense. So it's really good. You have, what are their names? Sam and Percy. You have Sam and Percy. Percy has to go back to Barry's Bay is the name of the place. It's in Canada, so Percy has to go back to Barry's Bay for something, and she runs into Sam, who was her old lover slash best friend, and of course now they're strangers. Something happened when they were teenagers that caused them to drift apart. Not just drift apart, but abruptly end their relationship, and then they talk through, I guess. It basically just goes through all of their summers together leading up to that event, and then them coming back together at the end. But it's very good. And the last book in this video, I'm sorry, it had to be this one. It had to be in here, okay? It's Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is in my top 3 favorite books of all time. It's so good. I listened to the audiobook and I cried, okay? I don't really cry reading books that much. I realize I have videos of me doing it, but of me crying on my channel from reading books, but I just love it so much. It is literally so good. I read it in the physical copy, of course, the first time, and then I listened to the audiobook the second time, and it was so good. I literally stared at it for like 10 minutes after I read it and said, how am I supposed to read anything ever again, because nothing is ever gonna compare. So we have Daisy, who is perfect. Basically everybody loves her. All the guys want to date her, all the girls want to be her. She is captivating and everybody just wants, they just want to know Daisy Jones. And she is an excellent songwriter, but she gets signed by a label. They don't want her to write her own songs, so she sings what they do. Her first album, I mean what they want her to. Her first album is mediocre. It's not bad, it's not good. And then we have The Six, which is a band that started with 2 brothers, and their first album was, it wasn't a flop, it wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst, but obviously could be much improved. So their label decides to put Daisy and The Six together, and it's the story of their band. So anyway, those are all of the books that I feel like have gotten me out of reading slumps in the past. I think they will do it for you too. I would highly, sorry, I hit my tripod. I would highly recommend checking out every one of these books because they're so good. I think I just expressed my love for them so much in this video that you really have to check them out. But with that being said, that's everything I have for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.